Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on one of the most high quality AR-15s I have ever reviewed on this channel. This is the Quantum Mk-2 by Blackout Defense. This gun is on loan to the channel from a local subscriber named Ken. He contacted me and said, hey, I know you're looking for some more guns to review. I have something you've never reviewed before and maybe not have heard of. And I hadn't actually heard of this company. But I am so glad that he reached out. We met, we talked about this gun, he showed it to me, and I was blown away with its quality. I got a lot to say about this gun. A lot of positives and maybe a couple of criticisms, but they're very minor. I also want to apologize for the clickbaity thumbnail. I know you clicked the thumbnail thinking you're going to see some hot blonde at the range. Well, that's my wife. You clicked on it and here I am with my ugly mug sitting here in the garage talking about guns. So I know some people are going to be disappointed, but I hope you stick around. I also want to thank all of my Patreons who continuously support my project here at the Texas Gun Vault. As you guys know, my channel is demonetized, and so all of my Patreon support really helps me continue to produce this content on a weekly basis. And I also want to thank Brown Works. He supplies all of the ammunition for these range reports. Mark is a master craftsman that creates great custom wood grips for a wide variety of firearms, whether you have a 1911, a Beretta 92, or one of the Arms Corps 2011s that are really hard to find custom grips for. He makes them. He can put on custom logos, custom finishes, and make them out of very exotic woods. I'm telling you, you guys will not be disappointed if you go over to his website, check out what he makes, what he does, and if you purchase from him, you can use a discount code, which is in the description below, and I will also pin a comment. Go check out his website using my affiliate link or the discount code that I have listed. You guys will not be disappointed. Go over there and see what he has to offer. Support him because he supports the Texas Gun Vault. So thank you, Mark, for all that you do. All right, so let's talk about this AR. As I said, this is the Quantum Mk-2 by Blackout Defense. This is a company I was completely unaware of. Now, it is my understanding that this is relatively a new company. And the owner of this company takes a great deal of pride in his rifles. Ken, who, as I said, owns this particular rifle, actually had some questions and concerns about it. And the president of the company contacted him directly from seeing his message on a message board and resolved all of those issues. So he takes quality control extremely serious. The other thing about high-end AR-15s that I always talk about is the law of diminishing returns. There's a big difference between a $500 AR and a $1,000 AR. And there's a big difference between a $1,000 AR and a $2,000 AR. But once you start getting above that number, it becomes questionable if you spend $500 or $1,000 beyond that, do you really get that much more? Now, the MSRP on this gun, as I am reviewing it today, is anywhere between $1,800 and $2,200, depending on the options you get. So in my opinion, that's a pretty steep price point. And if I'm going to spend that much money on an AR, which essentially you can build yourself at home, are you really getting a good value for that dollar? So let's talk about the things I like and don't like about this, and do I really think it's worth it? Most of the time when it comes to these higher end guns, often the answer is no. But this gun may change my mind. All right, so let's talk about the things about this rifle that I absolutely love. When I first handled this rifle, I was blown away with the fit and the finish. This is a beautifully designed and aesthetically pleasing rifle. Let me show you a couple of close-ups here. I absolutely love the color of this. It is a billet upper and lower receiver, which, by the way, normally I do not like. For some reason, my experience with billet uppers and lowers has been spotty because many times when they're machined, I always have some issue with tolerances and something on the gun being loose. Two examples is I have a SWAT firearms lower receiver that I use on a 9mm SBR. The safety selector switch is just a little bit too small, but it's not because the selector switch itself is out of spec, it's because the hole that was drilled for it, a little bit too big. I also have a ShyTac AR-15 that you guys have seen before, the CT-15. I noticed that the bolt catch is a little bit loose on that one. I just haven't had the best experiences with billets. Now, if you don't know what a billet lower and upper is as compared to a forging, a billet is a type of AR receiver that has been milled from a solid block of aluminum as compared to forged metal, which already has some of the general shape of it. One of the downsides to billet is that the material that it's made of, the aluminum, is not always as strong, so they'll have some of the parts of the gun milled out to be a little bit thicker. Where the forging is often better metallurgically, they don't have to be as thick in certain spots, but they have that kind of forged appearance. They all look like the same stock AR lower. But the billets allow you to be a little bit more unique. But in general, I've always preferred the forgings over the billets, and this gun, I think, is going to change my mind. I really like that about this. Now, another thing is it has their proprietary charging handle. I'm going to show you the size of this charging handle right here. It is absolutely gigantic and it is thick. I like this a lot. You get a lot of surface purchase on both sides, either right or left, and it's not too thin. One of the charging handles that I use on another AR that's very wide like this is very narrow. And actually, when you're pulling it back, it can kind of hurt your finger a little bit. This is really comfortable and gives you a huge purchase area. I absolutely love that a lot. Then there's the trigger in this. Now, normally I don't like straight triggers. I like them to have a little bit of curve. Now, I still stand by that. Curved triggers, I think, are still superior to straight triggers when it comes to any trigger that is hinged. A 1911 is not so bad because that trigger comes straight back into the receiver. But an AR trigger is hinged. It has a point up here. I don't like that. But I will tell you that when I dry fire this gun, I have never felt an AR trigger as nice as this one, and this is their proprietary trigger. It has a very short take-up, a very crisp break, and a very short reset. I am blown away with how this trigger feels. It is one of the nicest triggers ever. Now, they do offer this trigger now with a curved face. So that is an option that I would go with if I was going to buy one of these. But if you like the straight face triggers, this is going to be absolutely perfect for you. Hands down, one of the nicest, if not the nicest, stock trigger in any AR-15 I have ever shot. Now, let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And I'm going to have a little caveat to these. These are going to be small criticisms, and they're not really deal breakers because anything on this rifle that I don't like can be easily changed out. The first thing about this I'm not a big fan of is this stock. This is a Blackout Defense stock. My only complaint about it is the button that you use to adjust it. Most of the time on mag pools and other kind of mil-spec stocks, the button is up here and I kind of want to grab there. I'm so used to using those types of stocks. This one uses a button up in the front. It's in a weird place. Normally you would push in on the button here, but when you push this tab in the front, that spot comes out. It's kind of the opposite of what I'm expecting. I would want more of a standard stock on this. Not that this stock functions bad or is not comfortable. I just don't like having to grab it there for the adjustment. I'm just not used to it. Another thing is that it does have the Magpul, I don't know if it's called the Plus, I think it's the Mo Plus, the MOE Plus. It has more of a rubberized finish. I don't like any grips on my guns that feel like 1980s car steering wheels. I prefer them to be more polymer than rubber, but as I said, this is an easily changed part, and these two things would not be deal breakers whatsoever. But there is one thing on this rifle that I'm not a huge fan of at all, and when it comes to the gun setup as it is, would probably prevent me from buying it. And that's going to be this muzzle device up here at the front. Now this gun has a 13.5-inch barrel with this muzzle device pin and welded to make it 16 inches. So this is a non-NFA firearm. And I like the fact that they do offer this, but it is a muzzle break. And I can tell you that when it comes to guns like ARs, I prefer flash hiders more than muzzle brakes. Muzzle brakes are going to give you a flash and a concussion. Now, this gun is designed to be suppressed. I forgot which suppressor this gun was designed for, but because it's pinned and welded, you can't take it off. You can't exchange it for something else. Not a big fan of that. And I wish that they would offer this with either a flash hider or other options. I'm sure they offer this as an NFA gun, or maybe you can buy just the upper receiver and you can SBR it or put it on an AR pistol lower and be just fine. But the fact that it's pinned and welded with a muzzle brake on a barrel length shorter than 16 inches, well, I think this thing is going to be a flamethrower and it's going to be exceptionally loud. But that's just kind of my initial thoughts here before I get it to the range. So let's get to the range. Let's put its first magazine through it, see what I think. I do have high hopes for this gun. As I said, just handling it, this thing feels like a top-notch AR-15, and I'm really impressed with it. So, first shots are going to be at 15 yards, going to be 20 rounds. Let's just take it for a spin. All right, so the first comment I have is, ouch, that is loud. I mean, it is loud. This is a 3-chamber muzzle brake, which if you are going to run it suppressed, is actually going to be a pretty effective mounting device, because those 3 chambers are going to kind of act like the initial blast baffle and really save your can. But if you're going to shoot this unsuppressed as I did, whew, you feel it and you hear it. Another thing I noticed when I inserted the magazine is because the magwell has this unique shape to it. As you can see, it has a little bit of a curve to it. I noticed that when I was inserting the magazine, which by the way, this is a Magpul Gen 2, it kind of gets stuck. It doesn't want to feed right. It's not as nice as like a mil-spec, kind of boring looking lower receiver. This thing can kind of get caught up. It goes in there nice and tight, no problems, but that initial insertion, if it's not put in just right at the perfect angle, it kind of slows you down. So I don't know if this would be a great race gun. I might want to have that magwell kind of turned into more of a traditional magwell, but I don't know what can be done because it already has that metal milled away. But as just a standard AR-15 for range time or even home defense, I think it'd be perfectly adequate. But that shape in there, while it looks really cool and aesthetically pleasing, I don't think it's conducive to quicker magazine changes. But that's just kind of my initial impressions. Now, when it comes to actually shooting this thing, as you saw, it is really accurate. Those are my first shots with this. I am blown away. It feels smooth, very little recoil into my shoulder. It is a sweet shooting gun. But man, is it loud. So now I'm going to double the distance. I'm going to go to as far out on the range as I possibly can. Being an indoor range, this is only set up for 25 yards. I call this the accuracy portion, but it's not really accuracy because I'm not bench resting this. I'm just extending the range to see how it shoots. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA target. I really have high hopes. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a pretty tight and small group just offhand. So let's see how I do. Well, as expected, the gun shot great, and I'm extremely happy with it. I have to say, I think I chalk a lot of it up to the tight tolerances of this gun. Many times on these higher end ARs, you will find screws in the back that will help tighten up the tolerances between the upper and the lower receiver. Blackout Defense goes at it a different way. They have a shim in the front. I don't know if it's going to come across on camera, but maybe you can see a little bit of yellow right there above the pivot pin. Now, I believe these are interchangeable. It's a little piece of rubber, and it really tightens up those tolerances between the upper and the lower. And I think that has a lot to do with the accuracy and definitely gives you a feel that this gun is well built. It is just super tight, but not overly so. It's not hard to get the takedown pins out or the pivot pin out. I'm really impressed with that fit. Well, I'm now going to give my wife a chance to shoot this. She's actually a little scared because she's been standing behind the camera the whole time, and she said it was loud. Well, we're going to see what her reaction is, but I actually think she's going to enjoy it. But let's see what her reaction is. So I think she was pretty happy with the results. It looks like the hostage taker was taken out. I have to say, from standing behind the camera, because I filmed that segment, it is a night and day difference between standing kind of on the side of shooting this thing with this muzzle brake and shooting behind it. When you have the gun on your shoulder, you don't notice it as much. You definitely see the flash. But when I was filming, man, you felt a huge concussion. This muzzle brake does a good job at what it's supposed to do. But you end up kind of being that guy at the range that has that super loud gun that no one wants to be with. Yeah, that was me at the range. I was unfortunately that guy. I don't think it'd be so bad if I was at an outdoor range or running this with a suppressor, of course. But man, running this thing unsuppressed, it's just not as fun. Becky said she thought it ran great and agreed with me that this might be the best AR trigger she has ever shot. She really liked it. She thought she was going to hate it, but when you're behind the gun, she's like, wow, that thing is really nice. She definitely would prefer it suppressed or with maybe a flash hider, but otherwise, I think she gives it really high marks. You might also have noticed there was a little cut in that shooting footage, and that is because the concussion of this gun actually made her nose run. I know, it's kind of funny. She kind of had to stop in the middle. She goes, I think my nose is about to run. She had all that gas coming back in her face. I'm telling you, this thing has a huge concussion, and I was standing back a few feet. Well, 5.56 is more powerful than what people give it credit for. But now we're going to go to the next portion of the shooting review, and I kind of call it the defensive use. Essentially, I'm going to put out a target that has two individual targets on it, and I'm going to go back and forth trying to do double and triple taps between them in a really rapid succession, kind of using it as though I might have to use it in some type of defensive scenario. Now remember, I am not an expert shooter. I am not a tactician. I am not one of those tactical bearded guys. So I'm just your average gun guy. So using it in this scenario, I kind of imagine, well, you're having to defend your home from multiple intruders, and I want to see how it's going to function in that capacity. So here's how I did. So there was one thing I noticed when shooting this on that test. This gun can run fast. I can pull this trigger really fast. Let me show you with a little bit of a close-up here. So we're gonna go ahead and, of course, clear the gun again. I'll come over here and hopefully get this on camera. So here is the trigger. I'm going to pull it. You're going to see how short of a take-up this is. It is crazy short. I can't believe how short that is, but you definitely still feel the wall. Let me reset the trigger now. That's it. That's all it is, and you're right back at the wall. That is just an awesome trigger. And because of that, I think I can shoot this really fast. I only have about 10 rounds left, so I'm just gonna do a quick mag dump. Yeah, it's only 10 rounds, sorry guys. But I think you're gonna see how fast this gun can run. Last 10 rounds just to see how fast I can shoot this thing. Sorry, Becky, it's gonna be loud. Wow. I think my reaction says it all. Just simply, wow. This gun has impressed me on all levels, from its aesthetics, its build quality, to how well it shoots and how well it feels. And the only little criticisms I have, I could probably change. The only big one is this muzzle device. Now there's something else that might bother some people. This gun does lack a forward assist. Now I do agree, you don't need a forward assist. However, there have been incidences that have been reported, like in the Kyle Rittenhouse incident up in Wisconsin. He actually cleared a malfunction by using the forward assist. So I know a lot of people say it's extra weight, it's unneeded, but there are stories where it has helped. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So if you like forward assists, you might not like this. If you don't think you need it, you might love this. So what are my final thoughts on this amazing rifle from Blackout Defense? Well, I have to say that I am often not impressed by high-end ARs. I can build an AR. I can assemble them from the highest quality parts that I can get from a multitude of different manufacturers. So when it comes to really looking at a stock Daniel Defense or an LWRC, I can go, wow, that is kind of neat because they have certain parts on them that are proprietary, but in general, it's just an AR. But man, when it comes to the quality of this gun, the way it feels in my hand, the way it shoots, all I can say is this is one of the few higher end AR-15s that I really think is worth the money. I really feel that the law of diminishing returns kind of peaks out on this gun. You're gonna spend a lot on this rifle, but I think it's worth every penny. Now, I did look at the website and they do offer these guns in various barrel lengths with different options. The only deal breaker for me is this muzzle device. So I would prefer to buy it in some type of configuration that doesn't have it pinned and welded, so I could put on something else that I want that would fit my personal suppressors. Because if I was going to use this in a home defense situation, and I should have talked about this a few minutes ago when I did that defensive use, I actually think this gun is unusable in that circumstance because the flash is so bright that if you were in a dark house, it could blind you essentially. You'll lose track of the targets. Plus, you're also going to go deaf. If you don't have hearing protection on when you shoot this thing, it's going to be loud and it could disorient you. So the flash and the volume of the concussion, man, it's a lot. I would not use this as a home defense rifle if it was unsuppressed. But that's just my personal opinion on that. But as a range gun, as a high quality AR-15, I'm blown away. This gun is fantastic. You guys know that I can often be pretty rough on a gun. If there's something about it I don't like, I kind of harp on it, I kind of focus on it. And this gun has so many positives to it that I kind of overlook this. So, on my star rating, how would I rate this? Well, I'm going to give it 4.75 stars out of 5, okay? So all the little stuff I griped about, I can change out, with the exception of the magwell. I don't like that. I think it looks cool, but I definitely feel like it's, see right there, I tried to reinsert and it got stuck. It just doesn't want to go in just right because of its shape and that muzzle device. But I don't think that's going to bother a lot of people. But 4.75 stars out of 5. This gun just has too many positives to it. If you get to hold one, you're going to understand what I mean by it is just quality from top to bottom. So let me give you guys one more close-up here of this amazing firearm. See if I can get it into focus here and show you the handguard, the lower and upper receiver. There's that Fab Defense stock on it. Here is the other side. And you guys can see that is just one beautiful, beautiful rifle. There's that 3-chamber muzzle brake. So there you go. My thoughts and opinions on the Quantum Mk-2 by Blackout Defense. An absolutely high-end AR-15 that I think is worth the money. I just have a couple of gripes. I don't know if I would personally go out and buy one right now unless I can get a different muzzle device on it. But as I said, for some people, they're going to love the brake and want it. So there you go. My thoughts and opinions and range report on the Quantum Mk-2 by Blackout Defense. What do you guys think? Have you ever heard of this company? Have you ever gotten to handle one of these or shoot one of these? Well, I am sure glad I did. And once again, I want to thank my local subscriber, Ken, for letting me borrow this. This has been one of my favorite range reports to film because it has surprised me from the very beginning. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.